Okay, so from here we're gonna do some changes. I won't necessarily be commenting everything I am doing, since we've already talked into detail about all the different techniques and everything. So from here I'll just comment whenever I feel like there's something that's different from what we were doing before. So the main thing I'm gonna do for now is going to tweak those copy stamp and try to figure out a better breakups for the cliff. So I'm gonna try and stretch those guys, bring some random rotation, and well, to stretch that, let's copy this expression in here and increase those maximum values. Can always change the seed by changing at ptnum multiply by something else if you want to randomize a bit, get different result really. And one thing we haven't done yet was setting up a stamp function to switch between different shape. Let's say we want to switch between this shape and this orientation. Exactly. So we would have those two variations. So let's set up a switch node. So everything's going to happen inside the copy stamp into the stamp tab. Let's enable stamp input and create a variable we call ID. And let's enter an expression like random at ptnum multiply by 2. So let's put that into parentheses. And okay, actually the proper function is rand, not random. So in the switch, let's set up this stamp. So it's going to be stamp. Let's call the copy2. The variable we need to call is ID, and the first input is 0. So that's great. We get different result. If you're not happy about this distribution, you can always change the multiplier of the ptnum to get a different seed. And well, actually, we could add some more inputs. So let's add a octahedron. And we should multiply by 2. So random's gonna basically randomize the point number between 0 and 1. If we multiply by 2, it will apply a number between 0 and 2. And that's what's basically fed into the switch. So if we add one more input, we need to change the range and multiply it by 3, so that all the point number get a random ID between 0 and 3. So that was how to set up a copy stamp. Of course, it's a bit of a deprecated way. Now we would rather advise to use a copy to point and set up on orient attributes and stuff like that. But it's still great to get something quick, like don't need to distribute like fancy instance and everything. So in that case, copy stamp is it's pretty fast to set up. So we get some more interesting breakups, in my opinion. Now the trick is going to be to distort a bit this triangle shape. Could probably try to use a box as a object input. And let's stretch this box. So we get interesting cutout out of this. Can be an interesting feature to have depending on what kind of cliff you are making. So like those very vertical stretches thing would be mostly for basalt kind of cliff, I guess. Like kind of more volcanic stuff. But yeah, from here I'm not gonna be commenting too much. Really, it's things we have already seen. And yeah, it's just bringing some variation and play with all these things to try to get more interesting results. If something's not clear, don't hesitate to message me either by email or Instagram, Facebook, I don't know, whatever. I'll try to answer your question. From here, I'm gonna try to rectify the blobbiness of the stratas. And okay, first I might be trying to play more with the frequency of this noise. So that was for strata large. And there's a thing I didn't take in account. It was the minimum output. We should probably set that to -10 so that it's actually digging into the normal direction. And that should help with the blobbiness of the thing. Same for strata mid, should actually set the minimum output like a negative value of the max output to balance things out. You can try different kind of frequency. It really depends on the scale you want to give to those cliffs. I'm gonna do some organization a little bit and add another layer of breakups. So I'm copying all this setup, the copy stamp setup, and we're gonna combine that. So first I'm gonna change the copy stamp values to make sure that it's very different from the other system. We got some unique scattering going on. Let's also change the number of points and scale. So I'm gonna move all those guys, make some room. And in here, I want to actually increase the height of the scatter so that we can get more points to the top of the cliff. And also adding a bit of noise just at the top of the gradient. Give some more interesting breakups. Well, might not help at all, really. It's just to scatter some particles, so that might be very subtle. And I'm going to play more with the slopes. So adding a transform node can help you if you need to, let's say, translate a little bit a specific layer of objects. Actually, I'm going to copy it here and see if adding an offset would be worth it. So it's not looking pretty cool. I'm kind of digging this more volcanic look with all those stretches. I'm going to add another mask builder. This time we're going to detail a bit the ground. So let's enable the height and let's call this attribute ground. I'm going to move the height remap and add some contrast noise. Yep, something like that. And yeah, but that's pretty cool is that with this tool you can get some very quick breakup for the height. Doesn't have to be like a full gradient. So let's just call that mask builder ground. Let's apply a color to it. And in here, same deal. Let's copy the strata setup and call that ground detail. So same color. And inside, let's call the ground attribute that we created. So from here, we're going to have some noise displacement. That might be a bit too much. And let's change the noise type to whirly. So something like that might be enough. And actually in this mask I'm gonna add some breakups with noise. Let's contrast it. And yeah, my guess that we could also play with the with the noise remap to really tweak the shape of this noise and get some interesting patterns. So we'll see how it's changing the look of that noise. So this is basically used as a mask inside this ground detail. Yep, it feels a bit more natural, I guess, less procedural. I'm gonna cache the geometry again, and I'm gonna set the frame range to between 1 to 4 so that we can just save everything in one click. Okay, so I didn't end up completely satisfied with those mesh, and my guess is I should go back from the beginning of this setup to do some adjustments on the fundamental shapes that are driving this setup. So you won't learn anything new from here. You can basically go right to the next part if you're all good and we're happy about how those mesh turned out. I'm just leaving this part of exploration as a courtesy if you are actually interested to see what I changed. But in most cases, it's really small things and I'm not creating anything new into the setup. So just one thing I'm gonna flag real quick is sometimes VDB can get disconnected, and it's important if you wanna get rid of the disconnected pieces, you can use a VDB segment by connectivity and use a blast to blast everything except the surface 0, which is usually the bigger surface that appears in red. Okay, so in this case, it's getting rid of some small chunks that were created when converting back into polygons. Alright, based on all this adjustment, here are all the different meshes I ended up generating. So fun stuff. I mean, they got some more interesting features. Well, it's probably more balance, I guess, but we could for sure keep exploring, and yeah, don't hesitate to send me your result. I'm curious to see what you get out of it. So this one is actually fairly interesting. I like it quite a bit.